So, welcome to another episode of the Barron Report, where we talk about all things innovation in the hospitality and restaurant space. And today we're going to be talking about restaurant marketing, kind of some of the trends that we are seeing in the industry. But I wanted to bring on one of our contributors and experts, and that is Donald Burns, the restaurant coach. Welcome to the show, Donald.
Hello.
All right,
Good to be here, Paul.
where are you calling in from today?
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
All right, so lovely ski time out there this time of year, right?
Yeah, everyone's like flooding to the mountains right now.
Well, you got Sandia Peak right there. Is it still a big ski center?
Yeah, Sandia Peak's pretty good. I mean, most people head up to Taos.
Yeah.
That's like the, go-to place in New Mexico. So.
Right. So Donald, let's kind of break into the topic for today, and that is kind of marketing tips for 2019. But I wanted to base this off of an article that you recently did on our site called the 4 Ps of restaurant marketing, kind of how those core components really make a big difference in your overall operation.
Yes.
And for those of you, if you just search 4 Ps of restaurant marketing on foodabletv.com, you'll be able to catch that article. We'll probably leave a link into it in the article as well and link out to it. But if you are watching this or listening to this maybe on Spotify or iTunes, you can just shoot over to foodabletv.com and catch it there. Let's go into product, and really kind of wanted to talk to you about building the right menu for 2019. What are some things, first of all, before we get into some of the questions, but what are some things that you're seeing that operators are starting to look to try to kind of break out from the pack in 2019 in terms of menu development?
The thing I see as far as menu development for 2019 is people are stopping to be generalist and more specialist is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
People are definitely, trying not, that mass appeal to trying to be everything to everyone is definitely trending away. People are definitely dialing in and like Chick-fil-A, the best chicken sandwich in the market. Everyone wants to be the best. And that's where you want to really stand out in 2019 is what are you known for? What are you famous for? What do people rave about? And that's where you want to be focusing all your energy at, basically, on your menu. Stop trying to do, a lot of things, halfway.
Which is kind of been the mantra of the industry overall for a very long time. Everybody wants to be something to everyone.
Right.
When you think about those aspects of becoming more of a specialist, do you see this kind of crossing over in all categories, whether it's fine dine, fast casual, even in the QSR side? Obviously, QSR sample or example you gave being Chick-fil-A.
Right.
Do you feel like that's going to be happening across all planes?
I think people are going to have to, because you're going to have to really be known for something special. All restaurant brands and all industries, all segments are really have to dial it in their niche and just become like famous for something. That's going to be the thing. You just can't be, a steakhouse. You have to say, well, we do, dry aged, bone in, prime steaks. That's our specialty. That's our thing. That's our niche. If you're doing a fried chicken place, we do, a gluten-free chicken that will just blow your mind. You will not think it's gluten-free, something like that. But you got to really dial it in, because you definitely cannot be everything to everyone anymore. Yeah. It's definitely, the market's just too saturated. There's too many restaurants, too much stuff,
You've got to stand for something and really kind of own it. And I see that. And you're right. I see that in a lot of operations that are really succeeding today, whether it's fast casual or even in the emerging brand areas of casual dining. We are seeing some brands that are really starting to kind of break out in the specialist areas. Your thoughts on when you look at product as one of the P's of marketing in 2019, and most restaurants look at product as their menu.
Right.
But when you go outside that box, because we are seeing some development, and I want to talk to that point, when you look at ways of delivery, catering kind of playing into this, the bar program if they have a bar, and then even experiential events, so which might not necessarily be at the restaurant. Your thoughts on how far out product goes today for a restaurant brand? Because it used to be my product is my menu, and that's kind of the thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, of course, as far as, we go into branding, product is definitely part of branding. And the biggest thing today, and you and I both know, the biggest segment out there that's taking off like crazy is delivery.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could have stuff that, you could make on your restaurant or in your restaurant on the menu that would be great at the table. But now we have to take into consideration time and travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we have to rethink our product and also our menus, and also how are things being kind of, received when they're traveling in a car for 20, 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So those things that have to be very, very carefully considered nowadays, especially as your brand is definitely getting past the four walls.
Yeah.
And it's definitely getting out there more. And the same thing if, you decide you want to, maybe your brand decides you want to get into the pop-up category and start doing pop-ups at places. Now you got to think, how can I take my concept and, execute it at a different location in somebody else's place, with very little equipment sometimes, or equipment that I'm not, quite comfortable with or use consistently in my restaurant. And how can I represent my brand in there? So it's a lot more consideration besides just what was going on between your restaurant and in your kitchen.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have to take in a lot more variables.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I had the CEO of Punch Bowl Social on here on our on our show not too long ago, and of course they are a very experiential restaurant concept. A lot of things going on, more entertainment. But ironically, he really talked a lot about his menu and his bar program as kind of their icon areas of recognition, or people that would come to that restaurant for specifically for food and bar, more so than maybe even the entertainment. But I'm kind of curious, when you look at millennials as they continue to look at experiences as one of the key things they're looking at in terms of spending their money on, whether that's travel experience, food experiences. Obviously, we're seeing this in places like Airbnb, who have started to ramp up their food experiences with local hosts.
Right.
What are your thoughts on being able to take product? I have this core menu. I've built a pretty good catering or delivery business, but now I need to take it one step further and see if I can take my business, my product, out to an experiential kind of aspect. What would you think about that?
I mean, that's definitely where the brands that are going to get ahead are going to have to be able to, and this is taking marketing to different levels and different extremes, but you're going to have to be able to have touch points in different markets, and taking it out there like that is definitely where you want to go. I mean, if your brand can handle it.
Right. If you've got
brands,
if you've got the box and you've got the bandwidth to go in that direction. Some brands are not necessarily experiential brands. They're very utilitarian brands. But do you see trends that where we are, and this is kind of shown already from last year's data, fewer occasions, but the occasions we're getting are higher ticket, or more people, so you're going out for
larger groups.
Yeah. So whether it's a family or organization, so we are seeing those kinds of aspects starting to really grow in the space itself. Do you feel like brands could potentially overstep themselves if they try to take product too far outside the scope of what they're doing?
Right. So this is another one of those key things, is that you got to know your market. You got to know your avatar. You got to know exactly who you are marketing to. And this kind of, we talked about, your menu being everything to everyone. Well, your marketing, sometimes marketing can get like that too, and they try to expand their marketing too much, and they try to touch too many touch points. If your demographic is, singles, or single people under 28, you don't need like 4 community tables in your restaurant.
Right. Yeah.
Very
good point.
But so really, before you start going crazy, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this, we could start doing pop-ups, we could start really getting into catering. The first thing you got to ask yourself is, does that play to my existing market? Now there are fringes on that market, of course, but you got to always play to your main audience, and don't get too far carried away or get too caught up in the next new thing. Like, we got to be on, we got to start doing catering. Catering's great. And I love catering. I love restaurants that have catering. Catering really is a great, alternative revenue stream to really build the bottom line. Again, if that's in your demographic. And in your avatar.
Yeah, sure. In your capability set, for sure.
Right.
All right. So let's move on to the second P of marketing, and that is price. Price obviously is, it's a touch point that is sometimes a little sensitive with operators. Sometimes they kind of have a position of how they, how well they can price up a menu throughout, whether it's challenges through growth or maybe just through market conditions, things of a nature. But I want to kind of get into one area, and that is things that can help kind of shore up pricing to help kind of create a little different angle. Sometimes how you bundle things, even in our business, we bundle certain aspects of what we do. In the restaurant industry, we are starting to see a little bit of this go toward an area like membership. Now, we've seen wine clubs out there for quite a while. Do you see potentially memberships taking hold to kind of circumvent the issue of price?
Yes, I do. And that goes back to, memberships, loyalty programs are great. If you've read any of my stuff on Foodable, of course, I'm not a huge fan. In fact, I hate discounts. I think discounts dilute your brand. But, memberships are great. Offering something that people cannot get and adding more value through like loyalty programs is the best way to really get that price in. And also, too, marketing, and we're talking about marketing your differential, marketing the quality of ingredients. Like, pizza places get this all the time. A guy walks in and I get a client saying, oh, somebody walked in, they saw my pepperoni pizza, and then they saw the price at $14 and they just left and went down the street to the cheaper place. I said, well, what's so different about your pepperoni? Oh, well, I buy it from this guy down the street. He's an artisan sausage maker. He's, fourth generation, lives here in town. He makes some stuff. I mean, it's fantastic stuff. I go, okay, cool. Do you tell people that?
Yeah.
Because
get the story out there.
It's like, no.
Not all pepperoni is made the same.
No, pepperoni's made the same. So if I don't know why you're different, I assume you're all the same. And then I'm just basically going on price. So if your brand is a little bit higher pricing than some of your competition, the best thing to do is you need to get that story out there and explain why you do it. Again, Simon Sinek says it best. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And the best thing to do is to tell your story about why do you love San Marzano tomatoes?
Right.
Why? Why do I love going down and getting heirloom tomatoes from this local guy? Why do I use these microgreens from, Bosque Farms in Albuquerque?
Right. Yeah.
You got to tell me.
And with that, in the aspect of, obviously that has kind of a side effect, and that is it creates a loyalty nature about a brand because there's usually an affinity to the particular products. Your thoughts on loyalty as a whole? I know you're kind of down on discounting, and I completely understand that. But when you look at loyalty in a way, to a certain extent, whether you're going points or some sort of reward system, there are certain aspects that you are discounting there. But I'm kind of curious, what are your thoughts in terms of loyalty programs? And if you were giving our viewers and listeners tips on maybe what direction to take, because some people are always asking, should I build points? Should I do freebies? How would I put a program together?
I like to do stuff that's exclusive. So when I do loyalty programs for clients, I try to think of, how can we build value in something that somebody cannot get? Points are great, but again, you're kind of building up points. Yeah. Everybody gets them. So, but most places usually have a happy hour, and usually goes 4 to 6. Correct?
Do a VIP happy hour.
Do a VIP happy hour.
Red rope only.
Red rope only or extended hours.
Yeah.
So most people get happy hour 4 to 6. Oh, you're a loyalty member in our club. You get extended happy hour till 7 o'clock.
Right.
Or you also get a reverse happy hour starting at 9 o'clock or 10 p.m. at night that goes for an hour as a member of our loyalty program. You get, some extra perks that people just don't get.
Yeah.
You get, you get advanced notice for wine dinners or pop-ups, or maybe we got beer tastings or whiskey tasting. You get advanced notice, and you get an opportunity to get it before they book out, before they sell out, of course.
Yeah, I think that's
things
a great
like
point.
that. People love that inside. Everyone wants to be on the inside.
Right.
And your loyalty program has to be that, inside kind of circle. Maybe you offer a chef for a day, and people in the loyalty program, we're going to do a raffle this month where you get to come in and you get to play in our kitchen with our chefs and get to work a station and get to actually, participate. And here's the other bonus. What we're going to do is, that time that you come in and volunteer to work in the kitchen, we're going to take the money that we normally would pay somebody, and we're going to donate it to your favorite charity.
Right. Yeah,
Now it's like,
absolutely.
wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you're really, I mean, in reality, you're creating a tremendous amount of value there, and
Mhm.
you didn't raise your price. You didn't really
Generation
charge
price.
them anymore, but you created
Nope.
a guest that's probably going to come back, 2 to 3 times as much, which obviously is great for the
Mhm.
revenue stream of that. Any other trends that you're seeing around pricing? Because this is something that a lot of operators are concerned with right now. They're looking at
Mhm.
up pricing their menus in the spring as we roll into kind of the peak season for dining. Your thoughts on preparing a strategy for pricing moving into spring and summer?
For pricing for spring and summer, number one thing, of course, you got to know your cost. I don't know how many places I know. Like, do you know what your menu costs are?
Yeah.
No? Okay, that's number one. We got to know our costing. Number two, you got to understand if your market is either two areas. It's
Hmm.
either, it's a commodity driven, price driven, or it's a demand driven. So if like you're the only place in your market that has like Mediterranean cuisine, you're demand driven because you're the only place in town. So you can bring your prices up a little bit higher. But if you're another burger place and there's 25 other burger restaurants in your place, now you're more kind of commodity. You have to kind of adjust to what the market will bear
Hmm.
and what your top end is. So those are two things to take into consideration. Other thing I like to do is I like to break down menus to more, break down the pricing to more where it's building your own. Like let's say example like a burger concept.
Mm.
So I would go into a burger place and they'll say, let's start with a single patty burger. And then, we have a base price for it. And then we have the add-ons, of course.
Right, right.
And that's great because it gets people in the door. They don't get sticker shock by seeing that, 3-layered patty with
Hmm.
bacon, barbecue sauce, onions, and this for $14.
Yeah.
And then they get, wow, that's an expensive burger. But if they see an $8 burger, they're going to come in, at least talk, at least look at the menu, and then that also gives your sales team, your service team, an opportunity to make recommendations.
Right.
I don't like the word upselling, but I like recommendations. How can you enhance my experience? How do you make recommendations to make my experience at the restaurant better? Well,
Yeah.
that burger's awesome, but man, you add this to it, it's really great. Oh, you like jalapenos? Oh, we have these jalapenos that we slow roast, in an open flame, and we put a little teriyaki sauce on them. They're awesome. They're great on top of a burger. So now we're adding more value because
Sure.
we're actually enhancing the experience, and then making recommendations on the beverage program too. Oh, well, you're gonna get this. Oh, you gotta try this beer. Do you like beer? Oh my, this is like the best beer in the world. You gotta try this one. Or make a wine program. Or if you have great specialty cocktails or artisan cocktails, you got to try our, Paloma. It's it's to die for.
Okay, so I like that, as a premise of how to kind
Hmm.
of not necessarily upsell, but get your check average up a little bit. I'm curious though, do you feel like you could get pushback from consumers feeling like they've been nickel and dimed?
You can get a little bit of that. It all depends on how you sell it. If
Hmm.
you sell it from a point, where you sell like just like a sales script, like, add bacon, add cheese.
Right.
Now I feel like you're nickel and diming me. But if you actually have a conversation with people and you teach your team and train your team to
Create
build
value.
rapport,
Yeah.
yeah, and create value. Hey, I'm really excited you're here and I want you to have the best experience possible. Let me help you guide you around the menu and let me show you some things that are going to make your experience fantastic here.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
individualized.
I
I'm
like
not
it.
going to go to the same table. Hi, welcome to, Chippies. Would you like a blooming onion and a pitcher of margaritas to start with? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know,
Kind of moving on to the point of team and just the staff itself
mhm.
in the area of price, because that's always kind of a bit of a sensitive area for a server. Not that they feel that it's a bad thing to kind of take a guest up the wine list or over into a more expensive section on the menu, but I'm kind of curious when you look at training that.
Mhm.
Do you see certain types of employees or staff that really get it, really understand
Oh
the
yeah.
aspect of how to really kind of, because obviously this means it means a bigger tip for them, or if they're running on, on tip share, it means a better run for the shift. What are some of the things you're looking for in a staff member that you think, hey, that's the person that for our particular business, because we're in a very competitive market, they can
Right.
handle being able to guide a guest up the menu?
Well, I definitely stay. I tell people stay away from the salespeople. You don't want someone to come
Okay.
in and just price gouge people
Right.
on your service team. You definitely. I mean, when we talk about hospitality, and we talk about hospitality a lot, hospitality is that art of being a host.
Yep.
So I'm looking for behavioral traits of people with personality dynamics that are genuine, authentic. They build rapport. They make eye contact. They smile. They're friendly. They sincerely have this kind of attitude that they want to help somebody have a better time.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And I always tell people it's not
That's a
about
really good
always
point.
upselling them to the, upselling them to the high end, buy the Opus One. Well, that's not necessarily a great thing for the guest. I would say make recommendations that are best for what the guest is, who they are, and what they're trying to get out of the experience. And that comes with a lot of training, and you got to be able to read the table, and you got to be able to ask questions like,
Right.
hey, how you doing tonight? What are you guys doing? What's your timetable tonight? You guys, trying to catch a movie, trying to catch a show? What are you guys doing? Oh, we're just here, I got some friends in from town, and I haven't seen them for 20 years. Awesome. Let me help you, guide you through an experience here.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's really where we start taking back hospitality and getting out of this sales kind of mentality about upsell, push, drive guest check average. Guest check average is great. And I like to track guest check average, but I only like to track it from the sense of I like to see where the gaps are.
Okay.
So I can look at a guest check average and I can say, okay, like Susan over here, she sells a lot of, wine by the glass, but she doesn't really sell a lot of bottles.
Right.
Let me talk
Right.
to her.
Yeah.
Hey, Susan, what's going on? Well, there was that one time I sold that bottle of wine at the table and the cork broke, and now I'm just like, I'm scared that it's going to break again. So I don't offer bottles of wine, because I'm afraid. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Well, maybe if we did some new training with you and you got more comfortable, would you feel better about selling bottles of wine at the table? Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So now I got a coaching training opportunity with our team. And that all came from just looking at the guest check average and saying, or someone's not selling desserts. Okay, not selling a lot of desserts. Well, maybe there's an opportunity to talk to them about why are they hesitant about offering desserts? Do they not like the desserts? What is it about it?
I had a chance to talk to a chef. I was in New York, and he kind of gave me an example of what they were doing to help lift pricing without changing pricing. And that was, and they had done this over a period of like 2 or 3 years where they studied their servers, and they created a line of questions that were basically guest greeters, and
Yeah.
each one of the sample sets that he was using, because he was breaking everything into a database that basically said,
Right.
okay, his female servers would ask these sets of questions to kind of engage the guest. His male servers would ask these kinds of questions to engage the guest, because there was different kind of feedback. So if a female server was presenting an idea or saying, hey, what do you, let's say we're talking bourbon, what type of, rather than asking them what type of bourbon do you like, what kind of
Right.
notes, do you like in terms of flavor notes? Because we've got a really wide, maybe I can recommend something. So by what he found is there was a certain array of questions that when they did an analysis, average check was so much higher than it was by the male servers that asked
Right.
a different set of questions. So they started to really work in a whole science into understanding how to get guests to kind of raise their own check price.
Exactly.
And start to, which I thought was fascinating. I'd love to see the data behind that of how they went about really kind of growing average check, but not changing the price in the menu, which I think is a great strategy.
And all it is a simple mind shift from going from trying to increase your guest check average to increase your tip to I'm concerned about, I want you to have the best
The
experience
best
possible.
experience, sure. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
it. I mean, it's a simple mind shift, but it is evolutionary changing to your restaurant and your profitability.
Well, and it truly, I think, puts the guest in the place, the mindset they need to be in, which is I'm receiving hospitality, and this is an experience for me. Let's move on to place, the third P in your marketing, and something you talked about in the past article, which is the science of menu design, which I thought was really intriguing when you look at place. But let's review design and ambiance first. And how does menu kind of play into that? Your thoughts on, design today, if you were building a brand new restaurant or a new concept, what would be some of the design cues that you'd want to make sure you have in your restaurant?
Design cues today, I would say, well, also depending on your brand, but number one is um, accessibility. Does it feel welcoming? You know, is it is the flow? We always talk about traffic flow
Right.
in a restaurant, but a lot of times we only consider one avenue. It's usually the guest flow.
Mm-hmm.
The guest goes here, the guest goes there, the
As
bathrooms
opposed to
are
the
there.
service flow. Yeah.
Service flow, which
Yeah.
sometimes can crisscross in bad ways
Yeah.
when we don't take it into consideration. So we have to look at both sides.
Are you looking for, something in your restaurant that is kind of the key focal point, whether it's a bar or
Mhm.
maybe it's something that's a wine, a huge wine cabinet or something else that could be incorporated and based on your
Yeah,
particular,
you should.
venue?
Yeah, definitely. You definitely want to have something that's like the centerpiece of your thing. Just like if you're doing a table, you want to have a centerpiece that's the main attention. A lot of places do like open kitchens, exhibition kitchens, the bar. It could be the wine room or a wine cellar. Whatever it is, that's like the big focal point. But the big thing is about the focal point is you want to build everything around that too and build it towards that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a place that is really into you know community tables and and stuff like that, you want to make your community table like real, like striking right in the middle, so it really catches the attention of people and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. There's a place here in Albuquerque, a restaurant that has a beautiful, beautiful hand sculpted wooden community table right by their bar, and it's definitely a focal point. And when you come in, you see people there, and you see the energy. And that's the other thing too. Your focal point is basically an energy center too. So whatever your focal point is, you got to understand that it's going to be creating the ambiance, and that
Right.
ambience all comes from energy.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And when you look at aspects of tying in your menu itself, when you
mhm.
talk about the science of menu design and how it kind of aligns with the branding of the ambiance itself, can you give us some tips around menu design when you are kind of trying to build? Because what happens a lot of times with chefs is sometimes they may deviate even from the cuisine type, in trying to create
Mhm.
something innovative. Whether they're a Mediterranean restaurant and they decide to go something, completely off the wall that could kind of skew away from it. What are your thoughts or tips around menu design continuity?
Well, the biggest thing, of course, the menu has to match the brand, has to match the design. But the other thing I think a lot of too many people do is they get too crazy
Right.
and overcomplicate their menus. Here's the thing: most people, we don't read menus really; we kind of scan them. And so going into lots of detail and all these fancy descriptions, two buttery pieces of French beer, brioche bread, buttered and then lightly grilled on a flat top until it's golden brown, and just brioche bread plus, just
Right.
let's keep it simple. Let's keep it moving along. Let's not get crazy. It's not like a novel. You're not writing, War and Peace here. The menu should basically be an kind of like an intrigue. I want the menu to kind of entice me to ask questions to my service team
Okay.
that can actually supply. The menu shouldn't supply all the answers. It should
Sure.
basically be like an enticing kind of, oh, that sounds fascinating. I'd like to learn a little bit more about that. That's the way it should be. It's kind of like a first date. Should be enticing, but not, not too much.
I like it. All right. So in place, you look at, in some cases, a lot of concepts are either one in their stage of rebranding or
Mm-hmm.
redesign within their own business. They're trying to whether it's update their look or update their style. Um, your thoughts on that and whether it's successful? I'm kind of curious because I've seen some rebrands and redesigns that are great and some that just
Mm-hmm.
seem to kind of miss the mark.
So the first thing ever you want to do when you start rebranding is ask yourself why. Why am I rebranding? What did we miss the first time around?
Right.
And then the problem with rebranding is that people think of rebranding as like it's like the automatic cure. I'm just going to rebrand and everything's going to be fixed.
Yep.
Well, not necessarily. And then the problem is then that doesn't work. So then they rebrand again, and then that doesn't work, and then they rebrand again. Now you've got brand confusion. No one knows who you are, what you're up to.
Right.
Your menu's changed so many times. You've got so many different decor things going on. They don't, they just don't know who you are anymore. So they go to the place they know for sure.
I love it.
You
That's when they need to read the book Your Restaurant Sucks or Your Restaurant Still Sucks.
Your restaurant still sucks. Coming out soon. Yes. But
All right.
that's the thing is like, rebranding is not, just because I always say the concept of rebranding is a lot like wearing a bikini at the beach. Everyone can, not everybody should.
Yeah,
So
okay. That's a
before
very
you
good point.
rebrand, you should think about it. Think about it seriously. Do I really need to rebrand? Because a lot of times it's not really, you don't need a total rebrand. You just got a couple things that need to be tweaked. That's all.
Let's go to a tip for a failing restaurant. We've got concepts out there that are struggling. From last year, we had a ton of downturns. Saw one of the largest years in closings that we have seen in the last decade. 2019 doesn't look as though it's slowing much. So if I'm a restaurant, yeah, I know. If I'm a restaurant that is feeling though I'm on the edge or brink of closing, do you think a revamp or a relaunch, meaning I'm just going to shut the doors, clean the slate, get a new set of blueprints, lease a new location, and launch again, is the better route to take? Or are there bigger things that need to be addressed? Kind of your thought. I know that's a huge question, but I'm kind of your thoughts on, because I think a lot of operators might be facing that kind of decision this year.
Well, the number one thing I think a lot of restaurants get in trouble is rent.
Yeah.
So
real estate.
They fell in love with the location and they wanted it so bad that they think, oh, I can make it work. Well, sometimes you can't make, a high rent location work because, you're still going to be upside down and you're working for the landlord.
Yeah.
So number one is, make sure that your location is a great location, that you got a great pricing and you got a good thing. You can, if you don't have a prime location and you're kind of offset or back off the streets or something like that, it can still work. Just remember that bad locations have to be made up with marketing. You got to be a little more aggressive with your marketing, a lot more consistent with your marketing, a lot more out in people's face with your marketing to make up for a bad location. Now, great location, you are going to pay a primo price, but also too, you got to look at parking and stuff like that. So number one, look at your location, make sure you got a good location, make sure your rent's good. Number two is you got to go back to what I call the basics. And this is what I call a foundation. Anytime I do stuff, I break down into 3 sections. It's basically foundation, framework, and then function. Most people jump right into function. I got a menu, I got a staff, I got some basic checklist, I got a POS systems, I'm open the doors, I'm making, and then of course, when you're new, you're popular, people come to your place, but then things start falling apart, people start leaving. And then it always goes back to foundation. Number one, did you know who you are? What's your brand identity? What are your core values? What do you stand for? Why do you do what you do? And what is your story? Yeah. If you don't have that, you really can't build a brand on top of anything else. People always want to jump to the end part, the profitability and, how can I make money? Well, let's kind of backtrack. Yeah. Let's talk about some of the basic stuff that you probably forgot about. So it doesn't matter. Like, you can change locations, you can shut the doors and open up a new place. But if you don't have those fundamental foundational blocks in place, I know my core values. I know what my strengths are as a leader. I know what I've done, maybe an assessment, a behavioral assessment. I know who I am, what my strengths are, and where my gaps are, and where I need to fill in those things. And also know why I'm doing what I'm doing. If I don't know those 3 things, then you shouldn't reopen. Yeah. You should just maybe think about an alternative career.
Yeah. Well, I tell it to people all the time is that, when they are struggling with a concept and in fast casual concepts, I've been on the other end where we've talked about consulting with them, and sometimes the best consulting tip is, listen, your brand is just not right at this time, and probably, save yourself and your investors a ton of money.
That's the hardest conversation to have with people, but it's the best conversation.
Yeah, I think it's the greatest because you can get someone kind of back on track or down a new idea route, which is usually the biggest issue, is coming up with a great idea that's going to work. Let's go on to the 4th P, and that's promotion. So I have several topics here. One I want to go into is, tell me more about staff promotion and if you think that's taking it too far. And what I mean by not promoting there at the table, but trying to get people into a restaurant, so maybe they're using social media or their own networking and local aspects of their own internal lives to help promote your business. What are your thoughts on that?
Social media is about being social, and I think if you have a culture where people just love working there, love working there to the point where they're just like passionate about your brand, having them get on social media and saying, "Hey, I'm working tonight. Friday night. I'm working down here at Gillies. Come on down, see me. I'd love to take care of you. I'd love to show you some of the things we got going on." I think that's great. I think it's when people kind of force people to use their social media to
Right.
promote stuff,
Yeah.
and then that's going too far because you can tell when people are authentic. You
Sure.
can tell when people really love it, and you can also tell when it's kind of just being faked. So,
Yeah.
and people are smarter than we think. I hate to tell people that, but they can kind of see a fraud right away.
Yeah, my concern with using staff for social is more so around the whole aspect of where we are in our society today.
Yes.
And that someone might accidentally do something, say something, or act in a way on social that just isn't in alignment with the brand itself. So obviously there are going to be connections to it because you're always going to, but maybe in the essence of you're not amplifying it, somewhere where someone's done
Yes.
something a little crazy. So I'm always kind of a little bit more on the repressive side of talking to staff and getting them to even, in some cases I'll even ask them, don't even bring it up.
Yeah.
You're
Well, if
you're there. So I think that's just a strategy
you-
difference.
if you want to really, if you want to use your staff to promote, you should do the promotions within your own brand,
Exactly.
within your own
Yeah.
kind of your own channels.
Exactly,
Like, this is
yeah.
Sarah. She's been here for 5 years.
Right on.
Sarah, hey, tell about why you like working here. What's your favorite thing on the menu?
That I think
That's
is
really
great.
cool.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. And more brands need to do that. I mean, you and I talk about all the time. The power of video is
It's huge.
so powerful.
Yeah. It's
If
huge.
you're not embracing the video kind of content kind of forum, you are missing the boat.
Yeah. Well,
It is the Dragon Slayer.
yeah, and these venues are so. Well, we're going to get into that actually on one of my questions. All right, so let's go into digital
cool.
tactics that you're seeing now. That we're seeing kind of a fall off in the Facebook. So we've seen some downturn in Facebook engagement, which really over the past 5 years, has been kind of the killer app for restaurant
Yep.
operators and also for consumers. That engagement was really lifting. We saw continued growth in the industry. For the last 2 years, we've seen a downward trend. Chefs are using it less. They're using Instagram more, even though that's owned by Facebook. They're using other outlets in terms of being able to communicate with their guests in other ways. What are your thoughts on this? Because if Facebook starts to slowly slide into a secondary option to market my restaurant, what would that be,
Right.
in your opinion, today?
Well, again, it goes back to, what are you posting on Facebook? Are you posting the same boring, food pictures and beverage pictures every other restaurant
Right.
in your
Yeah.
market's doing? Or are you doing engaging videos? Are you doing fun videos? Are you talking, you're talking with guests, you're talking with your staff, you're out there explaining who you are and what your story is. I
See,
mean,
that's exactly the thing you're hitting on right there is even though engagement is down, there still is a large amount of engagement. So
It's huge.
you as an operator have to figure out a way to engage that group. It's kind of like in your market, there's only a limited number of tables that are going to be sold that night. How do you
Exactly.
become the guy that's sold out versus a restaurant that's only 20% full? So when you look at aspects like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that all platforms are moving away, but you've got to figure out better and more engaging ways to be able to kind of dominate those platforms. I like
Yeah.
that approach for sure.
Yeah, it's not that engagement's really falling off. It's just that your posts are boring.
Okay, well which is kind of still the same thing. They're so boring,
It's like,
nobody even wants
It's
to listen
so
to them
boring.
or watch
No
it.
one's even tuning in anymore. No one's watching. And now, of course, people flood to Instagram thinking that Instagram's going to be the next, big all
Yeah,
thing. And it's popular. Yeah. But again, if you looked at the stuff that's getting engagement on Instagram, it's Instagram TV.
Yep.
It's Instagram stories.
Yep.
It's the video format that
Yeah.
gets most of the play.
Yeah, absolutely. So your thoughts on one-to-one platforms, email? I keep hearing from a lot of digital experts and marketing experts that it's coming back. The one-to-one marketing and email is coming back to the forefront. What are your thoughts on that?
It is. I think it's coming back around because, again, you can personalize it and you can, make a message where, and again, this goes to how you're branding and how you're talking in your emails and stuff like that. Always, again, don't talk one to many, talk one to one. when you're when you're sending an email or you're even doing a video, like,
Right.
hey everybody, Donald Byrne, no, hey, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you specifically.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
I want to send you a personal invite in my email. Come on down. Hey, I want to send a personal invite for you to join me.
I
Make
can't
it
wait
personal.
for email to get more interactive. I mean, it obviously has become more sophisticated over the past few years, but I'm still amazed that we don't have video streaming within email, even a podcast. You still are jumping outside the email to go get to the piece of content. Which have you seen any apps that have been able to deliver that other than a GIF that's given you 2 or 3 frames?
No, not yet.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be
that's
coming pretty
huge.
soon. I think it's going to be coming soon.
Yeah, what a great
I mean,
value
I
that would
love
be.
GIFs. I mean, GIFs I think are so much better than just words,
Yeah, well, they can do well, exactly. I mean, sometimes I text my wife in pure just GIFs.
Yeah.
We'll have a whole conversation with pictures and moving photos. All right,
Yeah,
so
I
let's
do it.
talk about the last item here, and that is let's go into content development for operators. So this is something I coach on quite a bit, and that is talking about how these venues are essentially studios.
Yes.
So much like our studio here, we've got a full commercial kitchen and bar. Those are these huge content areas. Kind of your thoughts on this? Why aren't more restaurants doing this now? What do you think is the reason for that?
Number one is they're just kind of afraid, and you got to put stuff out there. Here's the whole thing about social media is just be social, be yourself, be authentic.
Yeah.
That's what's going to get people to recognize you. And that's what people want to see. You don't need, I mean, you know how it is. I mean, years ago you had to have like slick cameras, slick, video stuff, recording stuff. Nowadays you've got a mobile studio with your phone, your iPad, your tablet, there's no reason why you just can't get on there and shoot a short stuff and just take people behind the scenes, take people behind your brand, show them who you are and what you're about. Again, it all goes back to story.
Yeah.
Who am I and what am I stand for and what am I really about? And why am I
Absolutely.
doing what I do?
I think
People
story is the
love to know
key.
that.
No doubt.
It is.
Story is the key because these people, so many times it's interesting when we're out interviewing chefs and brand leaders, though our questions are kind of, preset, often in many cases, the real result of the interview is something else that's behind the scenes of why they started that business in the first place, or maybe why they're doing what they're doing as a whole from a mission standpoint.
And you've probably seen, like, the brands that you've seen that you've worked with and you've talked to, the brands are probably the most successful. They've got a really fascinating story.
Yeah, there's something in the background for sure.
There's something there that's just like, oh my God, that's really cool.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, Donald, it's been great chatting with you on the 4
my pleasure.
P's of marketing tips for 2019. Thanks for stopping in today.
Thank you so much. I always appreciate you guys. Love Foodable.
Absolutely. If they can find the Restaurant Coach where, and any new deadlines on the coming up on your next book?
The book should be out by end of February. Had a couple kind of editing issues, but it's all working out now. It's back on track now. It'll be out end of February. It'll be available up on Amazon. Of course, my website is therestaurantcoach.com, and there's links there to find all my stuff.
Great. All right.
And of course, you can always find me at Foodable TV.
Yes. Make sure and check out Donald's latest excerpts on there. For all of you listening in or tuning in today, whether you're watching or listening in on one of our podcast apps, make sure and leave us a comment. Give us a star if you're over on iTunes. We'd love to get those feedback. Helps us tremendously on understanding that we're helping you guys out in the industry. If you have a great show idea or topic, and we get a ton of them, but that's okay. We're always looking for kind of that very interesting slant. Maybe you have a great story in your restaurant brand or your business yourself that you'd love to get here on the network. Just shoot us an email to producer@foodabletv.com. Make sure and subscribe to some of our stuff here on iTunes or on Spotify. And if you have not had a chance, we've got a couple of new podcasts that have just hit the network, which will be coming out very soon. And one is called Chef AF with Chef Jim Berman. And we also have a new podcast called Food Leaders, which is really discussing food service manufacturing, kind of its effect on the industry. So make sure and stay tuned right here on Foodable Network. We'll catch you next time.